What is up? What is up? Another episode, another week of the Daily Move podcast. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Daley, joined by and I won't say it, I'm not going to say co-host, Coach. We're going to come up with a name for this thing every once in a while here. Steve Move Scanlon. I'll tell you what, it feels good. I feel something in the air. It feels good to be on top. It feels good to be number one, Coach, the number one ranked sports podcast on Good Pods this week. How the heck are you feeling, man?
I think that's pretty cool, Coach. I think that this comes pretty naturally for you and I. We love to talk about sports. We love to kind of build up other programs and talk about things that are going on across the country and also where we're at the high school level. So seeing that we got some traction and appreciation for that, we're really, really grateful for everybody checking us out, sharing, and to climb into that number one ranking on Good Pods for an indie sports podcast. I think it's just awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like you said, number one, we were ranked number one on Good Pods this week. Over 18,000 hits we had across our social media, Coach. I think it's a pretty big deal for our first week ever doing this. We had a great show last week. We've got another great one lined up today. We got some pretty heavy topics that we're going to get into, but as always, appropriate topics. And I think topics that are really going to help people out in the long run and kind of, provide a little insight into our world as coaches and as former players and stuff like that. And that's what we do here. What about you? You got anything going on this week outside of the football world or what, man?
Coach, not much, man. Just enjoying. We got another taste of that beautiful spring weather this last weekend. It was supposed to be raining down where we're at. We got a little bit of rain overnight, but then Sunday, it was almost 70 degrees. And I can't wait. The better that weather feels, the closer we get to summer, the closer we get to football. But it was awesome. I hope to see some more of it soon in the future. How about yourself, Coach? Anything new up around your way? Any Gator territory?
We got a lot going on, Coach. And I know, you being the beach bum that you are, you can't wait for the warm weather. But I call it we had a false spring over the weekend.
We did,
and then now we're in our third winter, I think, for the year here. Hopefully we're getting out of it soon. We got a couple more colder days, but yeah, Coach, man, we're just we had teachers in service yesterday, and
are you guys like my school in the building? Especially today, it was freezing, man. How's the building where you're at?
I teach in a warehouse, so I'm subject to the elements. It's either 110 degrees or it's 35 degrees, but either way, we get it done. The birdhouses need to be built. All right. And that's what I'm teaching America's youth to do. All right, Coach. And that's where we're at now. So, like I said, we're looking forward to a great episode here tonight. We got a stacked lineup. We're going to talk about some things. We're going to touch on a little bit of South Jersey stuff. And I know we're going to hit that at the end of the show, but that's coming, man. That's coming. Like you said, spring sports have started. Everybody's getting that itch. I just announced my player parent meeting the other day. Football's coming, and we're going to talk about a little bit about it later in the show and talk about how we're going to move forward and integrate South Jersey football in general into our show, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later on. But as always, we're going to start off here with that look good, feel good, play good segment, Coach. And you know what? I'll tell you what, that little logo right in the middle there, that looks pretty good to me. That says number one podcast of the week on Good Pods. As always, if you weren't with us last week, you know that we got to start off with the look good, feel good, play good segment to get ourselves amped up and ready to go for the show. Coach, first slide here. Talk to us a little bit about what you got going on with this helmet.
Yeah, so again, just kind of looking at some of the social media feeds that focus on this, and I'm going to continue to give them a shout. If you guys like Uniswag, you like stuff like this, give them a follow on the social platforms. They do an awesome job of showing alternates, custom, special commemorative editions of everything you can imagine. So these were the couple that I picked up. This is the new release for the decal for TCU football coming up next season. So the college football season starts, and it's going to be kicked off by their week 0. So, Coach, I want to pick your brain on this too. So in week 0, TCU is traveling to Ireland, and they're playing Coach Belichick and UNC. And it's one of a slate of about 10 games on that opening early weekend. But the benefit to that is, besides starting your camp earlier, practicing earlier, and the way I always think, I want to go 1-0 earlier, you get to build in a second bye week throughout the course of your college season. Coach, what do you think of that? If you were a college head coach, you played at college, you coached in college, you do some announcing at the college level. Would you try to utilize that week 0 to get a second bye, or how does that line up in your philosophy?
I think in college, I would definitely try and start week 0. I like to start earlier, get in camp earlier, and get our gears in order heading into like conference play. So I'm definitely like, the earlier we could start, the better. And I'm all for that, that second bye week in the middle of the season. High school, no, I don't want. Dude, I want to start week 0, which we do.
Yep.
And then we play straight through. I don't want a bye week in high school, man.
Yeah.
I'd rather listen. If we don't make the playoffs, we're done before Halloween, or we're done the week of Halloween, and we turn in our equipment, and that's that. But if we do make the playoffs, then we keep playing, and that's fine too. But dude, in high school, you get 10 games and you get 10 weeks to do it, and I don't need a bye week in high school. That's just my opinion. But sometimes that bye week's nice. It opens up my schedule a little bit and do some commentating and stuff like that. But
so
I'm able to work that in.
With bye weeks, I had when I was head coach at Clearview. My second season as head coach was when week 0 really took off. And it also was when they allowed you to practice 1 week earlier. So if you weren't playing week 0, not only did you not, get your first game of the season miscues out of the way, you had a full week less of practice to take advantage of. So you were really at a disadvantage. So we come in, we play week 1. We played Highland Regional, Coach Brian Leary, now the head coach of Williamstown, an awesome coach. And really one of those first football as a family, the Leary family. They're great players at every level throughout a couple generations now. Quarterbacks primarily, but great players. Well, we played them, and they were on a run where they went to like 4 straight semifinals. So we play them in a tough battle. We lose 14-6 in an awesome game. Then we had a bye week 2.
Yeah.
Then we come out and we play another school.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And we're up 21-0 8 minutes into the game. Now, that's a great place to be, except my whole team of starters is done by halftime, and we're 4 weeks into the season, and my team's played a game and a half. So I felt like we never really caught up to that season. Luckily, we played all the way through into the sectional championship round, so we did get to catch up. But when we voted for all conference, we were a game and a half behind in stats, and I just felt like this first teamer here ended up with second team. And, those are little things that, you kind of get proud of as a head coach. But
I don't think, like you said, I don't think necessarily that bye weeks are in high school are that important when you're playing 10 games, but so that could just be me, man.
No, we came up with a rule. Coach Steve Acey, a Paulsboro guy who's now the AD at Clearview, and he's my assistant. He's like, all right, if it's week 6 or later, we're going to keep it. If it's week 5 or earlier, we're going to look to fill the game. So that was kind of our philosophy. But anyway, back to week 0 here with TCU. You see the Horned Frog, and what I think is pretty cool, Coach, if you look closely, the Rose Bowl pose that we're familiar with, where players will bite the rose when they win a game to go on to the Rose Bowl. The Horned Frog is doing that with a shamrock, kind of commemorating that they're playing overseas in Dublin. I think that would be an awesome trip to go make if I'm a fan of one of those teams, or if I'm a player or coach or family member of somebody on those teams. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and it's cool that you would notice the Rose Bowl post there. Maybe a little foreshadowing for what those guys want to do. Definitely some good drinks over there in Ireland. I heard Guinness is a good beer. I can't speak from experience, but moving on here, you got your next jersey. Talk to me about this one, because when I saw this one go up, I was a little bit confused. This is the Washington Capitals, obviously, NHL team.
Yep.
Tell us what you got here.
Yeah, so this is the Capitals. This is their Cherry Blossom Night game. So you think of Washington, D.C., if anybody's traveled there or thought of it or looked at any pictures of it in the spring, when the cherry blossom trees bloom, it's really, really cool scenery. Well, they came up with a commemorative jersey for this, and I really like the pattern. Like, the front looks cool. It's got like the Capitol buildings, and it has like the cherry blossom feel and some color in it as well. But on the back, I just really like the pattern on the numbers. They are auctioning off all these jerseys towards a good cause, which I think is really cool too. And I like commemorative nights. I like big games. Probably my favorite one is if you've ever seen like the famous teddy bear toss at an AHL hockey game. They donate it to children's hospitals. Like, I love causes like that. And it's just cool, and it gets players extra juiced up. So I kind of went with this choice here with the Capitals.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And like you said, these jerseys will probably be auctioned off at the end of the night and go for a good cause. That's awesome. A couple jerseys that I found, a couple things that stood out to me this week that got me feeling some type of way was, not only do I love this uniform selection here by the Columbus Aviators of the UFL, it kind of led me into, all right, we got a little bit of football coming back this week, because the UFL kicks off this week, their regular season this weekend. And listen, it might not be the NFL, but it's still pretty solid football, and it'll get you your fix if you're jonesing a little bit. And if that doesn't get you your fix, and I didn't put them on the display here, but the WNFC, WNFC kicks off this week too. And if you're wondering what that is, that's the Women's National Football Conference. 11 on 11, full tackle, full pads. This isn't no lingerie football league like you've seen on TV before. This is real football, 100 yards, full contact. Those girls get after it. They kick off this weekend too, and I do commentary. There's a team called the Jersey Shore Wave that plays out of up north, Patterson, New Jersey, historic Hinchcliffe Stadium. I do the commentary for those games, so they'll have a home opener in a couple weeks. I'll be up there for that. So those two leagues kicking off this week. Really love the look of this Aviators look with the powder blue there and the dark blue and the logo there. I thought that was pretty sharp, and it's also a kickoff.
I love the helmet design and the helmet color pattern and how good it looks there. I think that's awesome. The UFL, when they came out with their team names and their uniform patterns, they did a pretty good job. And then when you look at some of their rules about, point after touchdowns, they have like a 1 point, a 2 point, and a 3 point. They have different rules for kickoff. That's where we saw the NFL kickoff where, everybody lines up about on the 30-yard line. Now, a lot of these rules are tried out and implemented in the UFL. You have players making it back to the NFL. You have players who didn't make camps but are continuing to play. So I think it's awesome. I think the design is, you hit the nail on the head with the selection. I really like it as well.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, with these sub-NFL leagues, you can kind of toy with the and get a little bit more creative with the uniform, so to speak, that you might not see with an NFL team. And speaking of creative, all right, I was coming across something here. I was looking for something out of the ordinary, and I've noticed that a lot of these minor league baseball teams are changing their entire logos, their entire names for, and you mentioned it, for these commemorative games or these theme games. And the Phillies, obviously I'm a Phillies fan. The Phillies minor league affiliates, the Reading team went to the Reading iced coffees for like their morning games. And dude, they don't just, it's not just a gimmick. They changed the entire website, all the logo, everything is decked out in this logo. So I found this awesome logo. It's from the Phillies High A affiliate, typically known as the Jersey Shore Blue Claws. All right. They're going to transform into the Jersey Tomatoes. All right. They're going to do this for one game in August. And if you're not from New Jersey, we're the Garden State. We got the best tomatoes in this side of the Mississippi. All right. They are delicious. And these uniforms are delicious. Look at these uniforms. I could just take a bite out of that freaking hat right now. The Jersey Tomatoes, the Phillies High A affiliate. We're going to have some fun with that one. Get your gear coming in August to Lakewood, I believe they play in down by, I don't want to say down by you, but down the shore somewhere.
Yep.
It all gets lost in translation. But hey, that was my uniforms that kind of got me feeling good. As you could tell, I had a little fun laughing about it and whatnot. So,
Coach, talking about look good, feel good, play good. We're going to talk about our first show sponsor. We're pretty proud. Check out Twinning Tees. You can look them up. Twinning Tees is an awesome business, does custom clothing. You can see here for my original podcast, Victory Corner, they designed some custom logos for me to get on some gear as well. I really like what they do. They can do embroidery, screen printing, heat transfers, anything that you need. Ton of clothing. Owner is awesome. They did it to match with parents, with kids, or complement what siblings are wearing, but then it has continued to grow. So check out what they do, and we can't wait to see that they gear that come up with us for the Daily Move podcast.
I'm really excited about that. They're going to have to order some extra fabric, though, for me. It's going to be I love that, dude. Don't even show me anything camo, anything military related, military related. I'm all over it. So if you want to get the salute to service type looks going, but listen, make sure they got enough fabric. All right. I'm not a small guy, but hey, that's Twinning Tees. We appreciate it. Dude, there's something cool about, those, maybe the holidays or something. Everybody wears the matching shirts or whatever, and they got everything on. So the whole family taking pictures and stuff. That's cool. We appreciate you, Twinning Tees. We're going to move on here to our What's Going On segment. We got some big time topics to talk about here tonight, Coach Move, and we're gonna go right into it. This was one of the first topics you sent me earlier in the week and said, hey, I really want to touch on this. This is Kennesaw State head coach Jerry Mack, and I'll let you take the lead on this, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Coach. We pulled this up, and I just saw immediately. First, when I see things like this, I wonder, like, I don't believe them. You know what I mean? Like when I read something like this. So the post as we came across it, it says first, the picture down on the right is what I see on Instagram. Loves when his players enter the transfer portal. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Like no, they don't. But his point I think is really cool, and I think it touches on what we were discussing last week about the trouble with people wanting players to be loyal and they're closing down to only one transfer portal window. But if I'm the head coach of Division 3U and Division 1 state comes to hire me for millions of dollars more, I'm gone. Right.
Right.
Oftentimes a lot of these coaches, they don't even meet with that team ever again. So I think it's really cool that this coach here, like Kennesaw State's head coach, Jerry Mack, comes out with and look at what they did. So Kennesaw State had just moved up to FBS. They had an abysmal first year. They fired their coach like 10 games into the season, even though he was extremely successful at the FCS level. It was pretty controversial. In comes Coach Mack, and boom, they're winning like 10 more games than they did the year before. They have a phenomenal season. And then he's quoted as saying this, and I think he's in the realization of that sweet spot of he needs to be honest and upfront with players. And if they're moving on because they have success at his level, they're making way more money than, as we joked about, often people do as their first jobs out of college playing anyway. So if he's able to do that, that also sells to the transfers, the junior college players, the high school coaches and recruits that he wants to bring you up to his level, have success while you're here. And if you move on, he's looking at it like everybody wins. And so
Yeah.
much of it is transactional and year to year anyway at that level. I think it's a unique approach, and I kind of appreciate it. That's why I wanted to get your take on it too.
I'm with you from the get go where you said, yeah, okay, I don't really believe you because I'm there. That's where I'm at with the whole situation. Yeah, okay, I don't really believe you, coach, and I'm sorry, I don't really believe you. Okay, I wish I remember who it was, Move, and I can't remember, but there was a coach last year, I think. He says there's no more such thing as culture here. There's no more such thing as culture in a college football program. You're on a 1 year to year roster and you try and do as best as you possibly can because you know that at the end of the year, your roster is changing over for one reason or another. I just saw something before we came on the show. UMass head coach said he had 68 guys leave his program, whether it was during the transfer portal or due to graduation or whatever it might be. And there's 8 players out of those 68 players that are playing FBS football right now.
Wow.
68 players left his program thinking that they were going to get a better opportunity somewhere else. And there's 8 players playing FBS football as of this very second.
Wow. That's like the transfer tracker you see. 3,000 players in the portal in the first 20 minutes.
It's and then how many of them are going to end up anywhere, coach? Yeah. And it's ridiculous, and it's ridiculous what's going on. And and a drop of a hat, the first chance these guys get, they're moving on, and it kind of led me to an interview that I watched over March Madness, and this is John Calipari here, the great University of Kentucky basketball coach, who's now at Arkansas and had a nice run there. And he says he did a post-game interview about this and says he's been pushing for this for forever. You transfer once without penalty. Okay? You transfer once without penalty, you get 5 years to play. You get 5 years to play. You can transfer once without penalty. If you transfer again, you have to sit a year. No matter what the scenario is, you have to sit a year. If you transfer again, you get one free transfer. If we can control the transfer portal, we can handle everything else.
Yeah,
we can handle everything else, man. We can control the money. We can control the agents who aren't even agents. You don't even have to be you don't even have to have a certification to be a damn college football agent right now. It's out of control.
Yeah, it's wild.
And there's
coach.
There's a mental thing.
I know this side of it too. Like coaches will mention this aspect of it, but then on the flip side, like West Virginia is another school. I think they signed 56 players this class. Look at Iowa State; they have 1 returning starter.
Yeah, but isn't West Virginia a new coach?
Second year, but yeah, it's the same thing. Like you were talking about, all those coaches in the portal. But the other half of this is, you're taking a kid in from high school or from a transfer. For every kid that people complain transfers out to make more money, I would bet you there's 3 that get pushed out by a coaching staff. So as much as coaches want to complain about someone having some upward mobility or trying to get more money, and you're right, that like Coach Cal had mentioned, you're at 4 schools in 4 years. Where did you graduate from? Where are your connections from?
You don't.
That's true too, but it's no different than any other job. You know, like, and that is the challenge too. And if you can push me out because I'm not immediately performing, and then I have to find a spot on my own, like there's a kid that I know of personally this past year. They were trying to, at the end of the season, right before the window, they're trying to make him think it's his idea to leave, right? And then as it gets closer, then the head coach started kind of getting nasty to him. Then he's like, the strength coach turned on him. And he's like, dude, I lifted 5 days a week. I did the team workout. The strength coach was my number one ally. And he's like, and then when he started telling me I was doing my own thing, I realized, like, okay, there's a clear symbol here for they want me to leave. He said finally, like, he refused. And then finally the head coach came up to him and said, your scholarship's getting pulled. You should go in the portal.
Yeah.
And he did. And he landed at a home and he landed at a school. But as much as we want to talk about, the days back when, as long as coaches can leave in the middle of the night and as long as coaches can force players out, I don't feel bad for them. I do think it's a mess. I think it hurts the product, but I don't feel bad because the alternative is you sign them as employees. They make way more money in a collective bargaining situation, and schools don't want that.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're going to talk about it later too in a segment coming up, but I enjoy my job. I don't care for the profession.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's where a lot of these college coaches are at. How do you stick around, man? How do you stick around when there's so many people bailing out? And the one thing that, and I'm going to move on here too, because I know we got a lot to cover, but the one thing that Calipari hit that really struck a chord with me was the worst thing about, making money is going and then not having any money. Or wait, with whatever it was, he said you go from not having anything to having money, and now you mentioned the 4-year graduate, and you're not graduating, and now you're going back to work a job for $50,000 a year, and you tell me I got to pay for things.
Yeah,
you tell me I'm not getting my car paid for anymore. I'm not getting my apartment paid for anymore. We're doing the kids a disservice, man. You don't have money, then you have a little bit of money, and then you lose it again. And that's
so I'm gonna shout out a team too, just because I think there's a positive side of it too. I agree, it's incredibly dangerous. It's almost like that sudden wealth lottery winning syndrome. But I have a player that's playing at Rutgers, and immediately they had financial planning, like they were being educated. They had people preparing them to set up if they wanted to do retirement investment, which I think is an incredible tool and should be mandated that every school at that level is doing for their players. So I thought that was a good thing, obviously, in this Wild West type of time.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's getting any better in the immediate future, but maybe down the road it will.
You mentioned it earlier about strength coach and the strength coach trying to push you out, and it's kind of a good segue into our next what's going on topic, and let's talk about the importance of not only off-season conditioning, coach, but being somewhere for a spring, getting that work with the guys. How important is it to get that work in the off-season? And what are your thoughts when it comes to guys who, especially, and it doesn't happen so much at the higher college level because you're on scholarship and all, but it happens all the time in high school, coach, where you got a kid who comes up and says, hey, I'm lifting at home, or I'm lifting with my brother, or, I'm going to the gym, or this, that, the other. Dude, it ain't about the gym, man. It ain't always about the lifting. It ain't always about how much weight you can push. It's about being in there in the weight room, sweating, grinding, bleeding, screaming with your brothers. Look at these guys getting after it. And I saw the video that got posted from UCLA with their testing for their squat. And, dude, they made a huge thing of it. Talk to me about your mindset on the importance of off-season conditioning. And, if you want to talk a little bit about what you guys do down at EHT, you can do that as well.
Yeah. So I think we're in such a unique game because you have to prepare 10 times the amount of time that you get to play, right? Whether that's 10 months of the season of training versus 2 to 3 months of playing, or whether it's, 5 days a week for 1 game a week. Like it just so much about it, and the hours and time on task goes into the preparation for it. But that's what builds that momentum and that edge and that bond and camaraderie, like you're talking about. I've been very fortunate most of the places I've been where they just immediately throw themselves into whatever we're trying to do from a strength and conditioning weight room culture. It's been awesome. When I was a head coach, I was very, very lucky that we had like 90+% of our team make 100% of off-season workouts. We
Wow.
worked out 3 days a week during the winter. We worked out 3 days a week during the summer, and then before camp.
Yeah.
Like over
I
90%.
don't
It's
think
just
people understand how big of a number that is.
it was just what we did, and it was the other sports coaches had great buy-in as well. When I was at Clearview, we had lifted, it was football, baseball, boys lacrosse, and girls basketball. And we would rotate days and who was in there when. And then on Fridays, there would be like 140 athletes training. We would train in 2 different sections of a weight room. We would train down a hallway. We'd be in the auxiliary gym. Like it was incredible. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, like each team continued to elevate the room. We said, your job, like we're one family here. We were all, we all wore the same colors. We're all the same logo and mascot, but your job was to outwork every other team in the room. Like it was because if I'm working hard as in my group coach and you're next to me, you get, rising tide lifts all ships, right? We're all kind of chasing the same goal. So it was awesome. But you're right. It's that camaraderie of being together. And it's interesting too. So when I was playing in college in the summers where I was at, we were not full scholarship. So we went home and like, I didn't like where my school was at. The second I could get out of there, I was getting out of there. But I was a 5 a.m. gym guy. Like my grandpa worked at a gym. We would box, we would train, we would lift, we would run in the afternoons. Like we were training. But not everyone could do that. Not everyone could go home and have that discipline to lift. I was lucky, I had scholarship athletes in my house and family and close friends. And there was always a group, in South Jersey where you could find work. But some dudes went home and that was it, and they come back in worse shape for it. So, but then
I remember working out with your brother, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we've definitely crossed paths that way before
like
too.
Keith Jackson. I remember working out with Keith Jackson and early mornings and working the bands and doing QB drops for 100 yards with friggin' resistance bands. Like it was crazy. That was what we did though. And you try like you try not to be that guy. It's like, God, get off my lawn. But like, dude, the stuff that we did, to get ourselves prepared, it's like you try to instill that. And like you were talking about, you got all this 90% of your team is there 100% of the time. It's crazy numbers. And we've done a great job. We've done leaps and bounds here at Gateway. And, Coach Mike Carp has done a great job with our offensive linemen and kind of, taking over. He's been in the weight room, well before he came, before he coached with me, but he's taken over our offensive linemen. And it's like a different mentality. But being at a Group 1 school, such a small school, dude, we had 15 or 16 guys in there over the winter, and that was every kid who wasn't playing a winter sport. Now, in the spring, we got 3 guys, right? Because everybody does a spring sport. So it's really tough, that continuity and all the gains that you make over the winter. It's like so tough because you lose it over the spring. But like, dude, the guys who aren't doing anything, I'm like, you need to be there, man. It's not just about working out. It's about being with the guys and showing them, what you're doing and how hard you're working and stuff like that.
And it's still the only, like the beauty and why we've talked about this before, but the beauty of why I love this game, and this is all sport, but I think specifically football, is because it's you want to talk about life, society, kids, whatever. I don't like sounding like that either. But in general, this is the only arena where people are forced to deal with high standards and expectations and failure. And like we think about every other avenue where we, with good intentions, have tried to curb the challenges or adversity people might face. So when we get into this arena, like, dude, that's the beauty of football, but more specifically, that's the beauty of the weight room. You're going to fail and push yourself to physical exhaustion every single day. But while you're there, you're going to be encouraged. You're going to be poured into by your teammates, by your coaches. And you're right. You grow that bond doing tough things so that when you face tough things in the future on the field, but more importantly, as we know, off the field for the next 40 years, you have that grit and resistance build up so that you can conquer it. Right. So that's kind of what I really like about it. We build it. And it's interesting you say about spring and winter sports. we're lucky we have like a 0 period thing where there's some times built into it. If you're caught up academically and you need to check in with PE teachers, like you can make up a lift a couple times during then.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool.
Our track coaches are all about lifting. Our baseball coach, Coach Brian Carmichael, our track coach, Coach Joe Lucio. Those guys are in the weight room all the time. Track comes in after us. Baseball lifted with us the entire off season. So they're about it. But some of my favorite days are that 10-day to 3-week time period between winter and spring sports when everybody's back together and then the energy in the room is through the roof, and the guys that have been playing sports kind of jump in and get reacclimated. The guys who have been grinding in that weight room are showing off all the hard work they put in, and it kind of builds and launches you into that next phase, which is awesome.
Yeah. You talk about embracing failure and overcoming adversity. Hey, I'll take a fourth quarter comeback any day of the week over having to figure out how I'm going to be paying my mortgage. So the adversity is a little bit different as you get older too, but definitely a strong topic there. And it leads us right into this. And this is North Carolina State sophomore wide receiver Teddy Hoffman will miss the entire 2026 season due to a positive test for performance-enhancing drugs per a release from NC State coach. And now we just spent 10 minutes talking about the weight room and getting better. And now you have a situation like this who comes about. And, you know, I know it's a sensitive topic for you and one that's close to your heart. I'm going to let you take the lead on it here, but talk to me a little bit about, you know, how does something like this come about, or why do you think something like this comes about in today's society?
Dude, so it's funny, when we were talking about this led us down another path of some other conversations and people we know directly, some from your playing experience, some from mine, some from guys that played, you know, for and against some circles we know. But I don't know how this happens. Like, I don't know how, and not that it happens, that you get caught, right? And just the reality of it. And obviously we hope Hoffman has a big bounce back, has an awesome career. No one wants to see someone get kind of jammed up like this. And he was already playing, so obviously he's a great player. So wishing the best for him. But what made me think of this specifically, Coach, was, so I remember being a junior in high school. So when I was in high school, we used to go to a 7-on-7 league every Wednesday in July, right? And it was awesome. It was like you get like 3 games in 7-on-7. It was competitive, but like guys weren't at each other's, you know, in each other's face trying to fist fight every play. And, you know, it was, you were developing, and it wasn't like directly, it was just great. The vibe about it was awesome. You know, running clock, no scoreboard, but you're making plays, you know, you're getting better. So it was awesome. Dude, we showed up one time, and one of my best friends to this day, he still looks like a bodybuilder. Like, he's incredible shape and fit. And I guess I'll say his name, my buddy, Mike Marinara. But we walked up to the 7-on-7. We were both bigger kids. We worked out all the time. Dude, this team we played, there were 3 linebackers that walked out that, if I told you they looked like NFL players, it does a disservice. They look straight off of Muscle Beach. And they were great players already, but they were physically developed for that next level already. And all 3 of them went on to play at the Division I level. And I kind of thought about it. And then one of the players from this team a couple years later played against my brother and cousin, and he was phenomenal. Like, he ran around like his helmet was on fire. He was so fun to watch play. But it was, if I had to bet, I would bet he probably had a little bit extra nutrition and supplements in his system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it made me think of this, where years later, my cousin had said, he was like, first it seemed seemingly joking, but I wanted to kick it around with you. He was like, you know what? If my kid wanted to do that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And you know what? I would even get it for him. Now, like, he was half kid in saying it, but just the concept and the idea that what is at stake for these players? Because as we mentioned last week, you need to be a genetic freak. You need to hit the puberty lottery. You need to not get hurt, not fail out. You need to perform when it's time to perform. But you're in a race against time to physically build yourself up athletically and from a strength standpoint to be as close as a college football player by the time the recruiting window and eyes land on you, right? And this is something that speeds that clock up. Now we can talk about obviously the health effects and being concerned with if there's somebody young and mentally not fully developed starts something like this and then is in a situation where they have to stop or they can't stop. Like there's all those threats that are real as well. But I don't know. It was just something that seeing those guys and knowing all three of them played Division I ball, and then seeing what happened here, and then you had mentioned some of the guys that you played against in college that were clearly on it.
Yeah.
And then you look now, like besides all right, so my brother, I remember he was at University of Delaware. One semester we got his scholarship re-up letter, and it was like basically it said, up to this point, we have invested $96,000 in your education, right? I didn't have $96,000 in my pocket for him to get that education, and then you take it a step further. Today, these guys are making money. Like if you're in the 2 deep of a Power 4 team, you're making over $100,000 a year. If you're playing, you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah.
So like, I can
can we just call that what that is? By the way, it's not NIL. It's just pay to play.
Yeah,
you're getting paid to play in college. There's no NIL. There ain't nobody out there out front of a friggin' car dealership waving people in on a Saturday afternoon when they don't have anything to do because they're using their name, their image, or their likeness. So let's just call that what that is. It's professional. It's minor league professional football. In some cases, it's not even minor league. And you're right. There's an incentive there. There's an incentive to possibly go down that path, Coach. But I blame it on this. I blame it on the culture of uninformed parents.
Yeah.
Okay. I blame it on the parents who are fighting at the 7-on-7s on the sideline. I blame it on the parents who are screaming at the referees. I blame it on the parents who can never hold their own kid accountable for something that they do wrong, because no, my kid would never do something like that, or no, my kid would never make a bad play. The coach put him in a bad position, and that's who I blame this whole pandemic on, is the uninformed parent. Because I was a Division I player, man. I had a full scholarship to 3 different schools. I transferred. I had a full scholarship to Division II school, which doesn't happen very often. I didn't take a friggin' lick of a performance-enhancing drug my entire life. I worked hard. I busted my ass, okay? And I earned what I got.
Yeah.
Okay? And my parents, my dad, they supported me, but they stayed out. It was never, what's best for my kid? We're going to transfer my kid because he's got a better opportunity to get a scholarship. That's the biggest load of crap, Coach, that I've ever been around. I'm so sick of hearing we're going to go somewhere else because we can get a scholarship over there. Get the hell out of here, man. How dumb do you think these college coaches are?
Yeah.
How dumb do you think these scouts are?
Yeah.
You don't think they can recognize who can play ball and who can't?
Yeah.
Give me a break, man. And that's who I blame this on. So if you want to be the parent who gives your kid steroids to get a leg up, man, I got no time for you, man. I don't know what to say.
The other parts of it too, like, are you going to take a performance enhancer, but like you're ripping a vape all day long? Like,
hell yeah. Like, yeah, come on, don't come with me with that.
Well, you're staying up till 2 a.m. on your weeknight, like, unless.
And I'm not stupid. I tell the kids that we both coach in college. We know we were kids too. We know what happens.
Yeah.
But don't sit here and try and tell me that you're being mistreated or mishandled. Get the hell out of here, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt.
I don't know. That got me worked up, man. I apologize, but
it's all good, Coach.
I
like to see the fire. But obviously, like we said too, no doubt. Like I'm amazed that he got in trouble for it. It read like he was taking a supplement over the counter that had an ingredient in it that got him in trouble. Hate to hear that. That happens.
Sure,
in the NFL. Couple times too, and you
hear about it, and you hear about it in baseball. It's like, how the hell do these guys get caught? And I almost, with the amount of resources that they have available to them with the trainers and stuff like that, dude, you're like, how the hell do you let that happen? But you almost feel bad for them, because sometimes I believe them, and I want to believe this kid. And you're already playing at the highest level, man. You ain't gotta do that. But let's transition into some good news here. All right, some happy stuff, Coach.
Let's go.
Let's give out a couple awards.
I like
How's
it.
that sound? Let's go. We're gonna have this segment every week. It's gonna be called the Daily Move Podcast Weekly Awards. I would love for somebody else to name it. Drop a sponsor here. We are open to that. I would love for it to be somebody else's name in front of these weekly awards. But hey, we'll get to that point when we get there. We're gonna give out for right now. We're kind of in the off season of our football. We're obviously football guys. Once we get into that season, we're gonna give out, I think, a little bit more. We'll get a little bit more in depth. But until that point, we're going to give out a coach of the week and a player of the week. All right. And I called dibs on the player of the week this week. So I left the coach of the week up to you. So we're going to go out with the inaugural Daily Move Podcast coach of the week. And it's going to go to, drum roll, Tom Izzo.
Yeah, this was an easy one for me. I think after leading Michigan State to another Sweet 16 appearance after beating Louisville, their second game of the weekend of the tournament, I picked Tom Izzo because he comes off to me. I'll tell you one of the things that drives me crazy, Coach, and I'm getting older, so maybe I'm becoming this coach. But when I would be around an older coach and they're so like fixed in their ways, because that's the way we always did it. And, whether that's the outlook or mentality, whereas like right now I coach with Rob Davis, right? Rob Davis is so enjoyable for me to coach with because he's the opposite of that. I'm like, dude, you don't fit in your generation, and I'm obviously stereotyping. I'm half kidding with everybody. There's a ton of great coaches older than the next generation. But if you tell him an idea, he might just listen to you. He might push back. We might go back and forth in some discussion and draw some things up, but literally the next day or 2 days later, I'll be like, hey, you were right here. Or that looked like this in this NFL game. Or this reminds me of this concept we ran 8 years ago when I was at Barnegat. Or I saw this team in college do it, which is really cool. And I picked Coach Tom Izzo because he's the one that had the quote. He said, I love my job, but I don't like the profession, right? And he was saying the direction of it is going a way that he doesn't really embrace, but he still loves what he's doing. He's adapting to the times. He relates incredibly well to his players. What I think is the greatest attribute of any coach in any sport is if you can connect with your players. He's connecting across decades.
Sure.
And it's really cool to see. He looks invigorated. Like he looks like he's gaining energy while so many of the other high-profile coaches, like we'll use, not throwing shade, but like Coach K or Coach Saban. In this era, now they're both older and they've earned the right to retire whenever they want. But you can't tell me that the way things are right now didn't play a small part in them deciding, what, they had enough.
I think those guys are on record with admitting that, Coach.
Yeah,
I think, I know Saban is. And
he definitely has.
you saw who's the coach at Montana. Like, he's the same thing, man. Like, just abruptly resign. I don't want to cut you off, but go ahead.
No, you're good. But that's why I picked Coach Izzo. So besides having success on the court, they obviously have great tradition at Michigan State, but they're not just like out buying everybody, scooping up a 5-star McDonald's All-American roster every single year. And he seems to be getting better with age, and it's really cool. So gives me hope as I continue to get older. I can continue to adapt as well. So that was my choice.
I hope by the time we're that old, like something gets rectified here with this college football and this wild west, the way it is and stuff like that. But it was awesome to watch that interview and the reporter was like, they're all of your friends, man, they're just bailing. How are you staying in? And he said, he said what he said, and he said, I don't know how much longer I got, but I'm still here right now. So that might be a little bit foreshadowing.
How about our player of the week, Coach? Let's kick it off for the first one.
Player of the week, man. We talked a lot about it, overcoming adversity in this episode. And this kid has overcome unthinkable adversity that I can't imagine many of us, if any, ever experienced. Colin Dorgan is his name. He's from Blackstone Valley Schools. You might remember him as the ice hockey player from the high school about a month back, where his father shot and killed his mom, his brother, and his grandfather at the ice rink on his senior day. Colin Dorgan has not only bounced back from that incredible tragedy, all right, his team won a playoff game where he was the winning goal scorer in double overtime. That was to take his team to, I think, the semifinal. And then They went on to the state championship in Rhode Island, where with 30 seconds left back on March 18th, he scored the game-tying goal. Colin Dorgan did. And then his team went on to win the Rhode Island State Ice Hockey Championship in quadruple overtime. 4 weeks after losing his mother, his brother, and grandfather in an unthinkable tragedy. Just a great story of perseverance and overcoming adversity. Our thoughts and prayers are with Colin Dorgan and his team, and just what a moment for him and his program to be able to celebrate the ultimate championship in incredible difficult times. So my player of the week is Colin Dorgan. Coach of the week, Tom Izzo. We're going to do this every week until football season, and then we're probably going to open it up a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about that, Coach, and let's talk about what we're going to do, because we talked about it in the opening of the show. I'm getting the itch. I want to talk some local stuff too, and we're in the works right now. We're trying to get a guest on for next week to talk about some local things. But let's talk about what we're going to be dropping starting tomorrow, okay? And credit to you for coming up with the idea and for putting this all together here. But tomorrow on our social medias, okay, make sure you're following our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be. We're going to be dropping division by division players to watch. Coach, talk a little bit about what we got going on starting tomorrow. And if we got to give a little PSA out to the any of the players watching us here tonight, what do they got to do?
Yeah, man, just have them follow. So one of the things that's pretty cool, we want to continue to shine a light on the great players, programs, and coaches in our region. This is a place that wants to celebrate all programs, big, small, rebuilding, perennial powerhouse, whatever it is. Like, we're all kind of fighting the same fight and in the same direction. So we want to continue to do that. So where we're in a super league. I don't think it's quite 100 teams yet, but I know it's pretty close, right, Coach?
96, I think it's 94, 95, something like that.
So we have a super league, and one of the things they do is they redo their divisions every 2 years. They have a formula that they kind of juggle and mix and match. And, what they use for the ingredients on your division may not be the same order of operations on my division, but they have a key components for their formula and their bylaws. And they try to build equal schedules for everybody and put people with new divisions. Now, one of the things that's really cool about it is that you'll cross over and play against a bunch of different teams that you may or may not have seen before. And we have a lot of great talent in the region, and there's a lot of great players to showcase. So we just want to kind of go through. We've been reaching out to a ton of coaches. This is by no means definitive. This is by no means saying, hey, you're not on this list. We picked one returning player per program. Your coaches have been giving us feedback when we reach out to them. Some of them, Coach, I'm going to tell you right now, there was one guy, I'm not going to say the team, but I didn't even reach out to their coach yet. I'm going to, because I'm going to make sure he's good with the selection. I'm sure he is. But they got a returning player who had 157 tackles this past year. I'm like, wow, dude, that's the pick. Like, you're the guy. You know what I mean? Like, you're the guy.
Hey, listen, and I know this because I commentated the state championship games for New Jersey. You got some coaches who don't answer any emails. So if we email you, answer us. I mean, we're trying to give your program some shine and have some fun with it. But like you said, Coach, listen, this isn't the end all be all. If you don't make it on this list, guys, don't feel some type of way. But definitely go on, follow us on social media. If you want to try and help your case, we haven't announced your division yet. You want to shoot us your highlight film, we'll take a look at that too. But we're going to start tomorrow. We're going to drop them in order, right, Coach? We're going to go in numeric or alphabetical order, you think?
I think it may be the order of the divisions. They kind of weigh them, or maybe we'll mix and match a little bit. We have I don't know, Coach, almost half of them done and prepared to go already. I'll tell you something else, Coach. Some coaches say, hey, that guy's great. I want to put this guy in, shine some more light on him. Yeah. Or I expect this guy to have a breakout monster season. Or I want some attention here. So it's really, really cool to see what coaches are giving us for feedback. And then, like you had mentioned, I'm going to tell everybody right now, we're going to do some postseason awards. Oh, yeah. We're going to have some South Jersey awards. We're going to have some.
We're gonna have all group We're gonna have all group teams.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome. We got so much stuff planned for South Jersey, and it's just a little snippet of our show because we want to be able to reach a broad audience too. But hey, South Jersey's in our heart, and we're gonna dedicate a lot of the show to that as well. Just make sure you're following us. And to your point, Coach, some coaches might have a guy who's the guy, but doesn't want to highlight him because maybe the attitude's not there. Maybe the work ethic's not there, Coach. Maybe I don't want this guy to get any more accolades than he's already got because I think we've all been there before.
Yeah, or he's an absolute dog and he wants to get him charged up and get that competitive fire going even more.
Maybe that's it.
Coach, it's pretty cool. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this. And it is not the end all be all. If you're not on this list, the real one to make is in the fall. So prove it to us. We can't wait to see what you guys do.
For sure. And like I said, if you got, you want to send us your film, try and up your stock, get a better odds, that's fine too. But make sure you're following us and you're sharing with us. Hey, listen, that's been our time, man. It's been 55 minutes. It goes 53 minutes. It goes pretty quick, doesn't it, Coach?
It does.
All right. Well, we got a fired up show for you next week coming up. If you weren't able to join us live here tonight, this will be dropping audio wherever you listen to your podcast tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. You're going to wake up. It's going to be ready for you to drive to work, and it's a nice, easy listen. As always, myself, Coach Daley, my main man, Coach Move. This has been the Daily Move podcast. Until next week, everybody, thank you for joining us. Coach, you got any final words to send us out?
Let's find a way to win.
Hey, there you go. Elevator's broke. You got to take the stairs. I'll see you guys next week, baby.